Hi, my name is Cody Boyd. I'm the marketing manager at Axial. Axial is a network for people who buy, sell, and finance businesses. Um, so we help connect, middle market companies, say like a plastic injection molder or a trucking company or an oil company. We connect them with private equity groups or investment bankers or kind of other people that can help finance or potentially buy their businesses. So my role there, I've actually done kind of everything on the team, from social media, content creation. Now what I end up doing is a lot of like sort of product marketing. So sitting in the space between our product team and our marketing team, figuring out how to really interact with our users and make their experiences the best we possibly can. And I've been in social media or worked with or around social media since probably 2008 or 2009. I first joined Facebook in 2004. I think I was in the first 100,000 people on Facebook. So I know what it's like to be an early adopter and sort of like watch social media evolve. And one of the things that I really enjoy about the industry is especially digital marketing. I don't spend a ton of time in social media. I think I was actually asked to come here as sort of a counterpoint to when you need to be careful about social media and sort of what you need to look at and like what are some of the situations where you wouldn't use social media. I know that's a weird thing to think about, but I'm going to talk about sort of both sides of the equation in a lot of ways. The thing that I really enjoy about digital marketing generally is just the measurability. If you look back historically, there hasn't been a lot of ways that you were able to actually like measure and keep track of marketing and really understand it well. You have to go look at guys like Eugene Schwartz with breakthrough advertising, or like Claude Hopkins with scientific advertising way back in the day, and that was only like direct mail. But really now we can keep track of and really understand the impact of everything that we're doing, especially with things like Radian 6 and a lot of social media software. So the first question I was asked to answer is, what are some of the things that I read on a regular basis to keep myself up on social media and really to stay fresh. A couple of the things that I read are, and I don't read these daily, I actually just get the weekly digests. I read Growth Hackers, I read inbound.org, I read, there's a company called Full Contact. They have a pretty good distribution. There's a thing called the Hacker Newsletter. It's really good. And Get Vero, they have a really good email, like they send a bunch of emails about how to do sort of onboarding emails and engagement emails with your existing users. Those are some really good examples. One of the things I would really caution you about is don't read too much. What can end up happening if you're doing social media and you're your job is to be an expert in social media, read as much as you possibly can. If your job is to do social media for a company, read as much as you can about the industry. What I actually read most, and I read on a very regular basis, is news and trends and concepts and things that are going on in our industry and around our industry and about our industry. Because to be really good at social media, you actually need to be an expert. And the social media allows you to display your expertise. But if you're not an expert in your industry, you can't be relevant on social media. So really focus on being an expert in whatever the industry or thing that you're doing is, and then use tactics from people who are social media experts to actually like do your job. Sort of the second question is, do we write our own social media or in digital marketing content, and what's our creative process? So we write it all. Our creative process is really understanding data, trends, things that are going on in the industry, and being able to have a unique insight. That's what you really want. Is there are reporters who are going to report the news, and they're going to get there faster every time. People don't come to you for that. What they come to you for is the insight, like making connections between things and really having a different notion or a different concept of what's going on, and saying, this is, you saw this, they reported this, here's the other thing you need to think about. Focus on getting really good at that, and that's where you'll get followership. How do we stay ahead of our competition? So we actually compete against a big public company who bought our biggest competitor. They have way more money than we do. So what we had to do is really understand what are the things that we are much better at than they are, and how can we focus and double down on that. A couple of things that we're much better at are sort of like technical marketing, or being able to like iterate on our website much faster. We have a marketer, an engineer on the marketing team, so that we can just iterate really quickly, and we can try out new things and experiment really fast. We can do that way faster than they can. The second thing we're really, really good at is actually I have a degree in journalism, and we are really good at creating original content, and also understanding that we're not the experts. Most of the time, you are not the expert, especially if your job is social media or your job is digital content creation or marketing. You're likely not going to be the expert. So go find experts, interview them, bring their insights, bring them in, and produce that. Don't try to act like you're the expert or like fake like you're the expert. Everyone will see through it really, really quickly. Get the experts and work with them. The more time you spend around them, the more you'll know and the more you'll be seen as an expert. Another question is, how do we evaluate social media platforms and tools? So one of the things that you need to think a lot about, our company doesn't use social media a ton. We don't, because our average user is probably between 55 and 60. They mostly use Blackberries. The vast majority of them don't spend much time on any social network outside of LinkedIn. And in LinkedIn, they're primarily using it just to connect with other people. So these guys are networking constantly, but not traditional network, or not social networking, traditional networking. Calling them, emailing them, etc. So the vast majority of our work, the only real social media that we do that's been hyper successful for us is LinkedIn advertising, because we can get the right demographic and we can target them perfectly, and they're pretty dispersed in a lot of ways. So we can get them just right at the right time and hit them with the right message. So in some ways, social media advertising can be as or more effective than trying to game social media. That LinkedIn is the one that we really work with. But if you're looking at or evaluating new ones, you really want to understand, where is your audience? Where are they? Where are they going? Where will they be? And can you get there first? So like the only new one that we spend any time on is Quora, because there's the likelihood that our audience has graduate degrees. They tend to be really, really well educated. The likelihood that they would go to a new social media avenue is pretty low, but if they did, Quora would be where they would go. We don't spend much time on Medium, Snapchat, not at all, nothing in Pinterest. Very little on Facebook. It's mostly Twitter and LinkedIn. With a little bit of Quora. And really, like, just generally is understanding, like, where is your audience and can you get there and in front of them. What's our definition of social media marketing or digital marketing? So we think of social media as engaging and creating a community on a social platform. Most of our guys aren't part of those communities, so we are not going to create and engage and become part of them. One guy I know who's been working in our industry extremely hard, he probably has 20, 30, 40,000 tweets. They're very specific tweets to people, at people, around people, creating a community in our industry. The guy's got 3,000 followers. That's just not going to have a payoff for us. It's not going to make sense. If he could get to 300,000 followers, he could get really, really engaged audience. Then it might make sense for us to invest a lot of time there. Otherwise, it's hard for us to invest time there. Instead, we spend most of our time doing digital marketing, primarily content creation, and most of that gets sent out through email. We have about 20,000, 25,000 people on our email list, and then our salespeople forward those around a ton. But yeah, I mean, we have 25,000 people on our list. We're getting 20, 25% open rates. So really, really engaged audience on email, not engaged audience on social. And that's fine. So that's why you have to really understand where you're getting your returns and double and triple and quadruple down on those, really maximize those, and not like force things that wouldn't work. Really understand that. What platforms or tools do we see as up and coming and sites you should keep an eye on? Kind of some of the early ones I mentioned: Quora, Medium. Really look at some of these verticalized ones. So like Growth Hackers is if you're targeting like social media marketers. That's a new one that's popping up. Inbound is another example of that, but those are more for like marketers specifically. Otherwise, there's new forums all the time that pop up and get created, and really understand what are the forums in your industry. And a lot of times they're built around events, or they're built around like groups of people getting together. Who are those? What are they? Where do those exist? Understand those. Those are more important than like what's the next new thing. Also spend a lot of time on stuff like StumbleUpon, Reddit, Hacker News. Those drive tons and tons of page views. Don't ignore the really established ones because you're chasing the next new thing. Just go to the ones that drive traffic and really understand those and milk those for what they're worth. If you're a freelancer or own an agency, what accounts? How do we win accounts or suggestions? I'm not a freelancer, but we hire them. One of the things I would say is the better you can understand in the company, the better off you'll be. Especially if you're going to write content for us, if you're going to work for us, you have to understand the voice. You have to understand what they're talking about. How do they work? You have to become an expert. The more of an expert you become, the more likely we are to keep hiring you and hire you over and over and over again. Most of the time, I don't care how much of a generic expert you are. I really want you to understand our industry and how it applies to what we are doing. If you can't figure that out, I don't care how smart you are generally. SEO is a great example. I don't care how good of an SEO expert you are if you don't understand the context in which we're working. What's the biggest challenge we face when we're educating the uneducated about social media? So I think there's two things there. One, it's actually both sides. When we're educating the uneducated, it's why would you build a community? What is community building? What does that mean? Why does that matter? What's the ROI of that long term? How does that impact word of mouth, etc.? One of the other things is you actually kind of have to educate people who are overeducated in social media. Social media doesn't solve everything, and it's not the right solution for every company. And understanding where it fits and why it fits and why you should use it in this context is what really matters. Really, really focus on that. What's the biggest challenge when discussing ROI? One of the real things that, I guess this is sort of both dealing with ROI and understanding kind of like just a general tip. If you can really focus on why does this matter in relation to opportunity cost, meaning if we spend your time today doing this versus your time doing something else, why is it more important? Why is it more valuable? Why is it more valuable to our company long term? And why is it more valuable specifically to this company as opposed to any other company? Because one of the things that the C-level is always thinking about, it's not that they don't understand social media, it's that they're trying to balance, I have to pay the bills tomorrow, and I need our company to grow X amount tomorrow, versus what's going to be best for the company in 6 months, a year, 2 years. And if you can really prove that what you are doing matters, that's great. Another great way to think about it is like advertising doesn't make sense if I have to hire someone for $50,000 a year to do $50,000 a year in advertising. My total advertising cost is $100,000, but I'm only getting $50,000 in ads. If I spend $1 million a year and I have someone doing it for $50,000, that's fine. Same thing with social media. You need to prove that it's not just going to be incrementally valuable. It's got to be tremendously valuable. It's got to like be transformative to the company for the C-level to really invest in it. And that sort of wraps back into like my social media philosophy and like how we measure ROI is like we don't put a ton of work into social media because we can tell just from the audience size there that it's not going to give us the ROI we need. The number one thing I would say is really understand audience sizes. Where are people? What does their day-to-day look like? Why are they engaging on social media? Are they there? Does it matter? And sort of just like a general thing for after you graduate is if you can focus on two things. One is, or I guess kind of three that I've found to be really, really helpful. One is, can you measure what you're doing? Does it matter? Number two is like, are you having an impact? And like, is the thing you're doing now the thing that was most impactful for the company, not just today, but like over the today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, and a year from now? Are you building things that become more and more creative over time, like more and more valuable over time? Or are you building things that are little? And the last thing is go rogue occasionally. Seriously, like take time out of your day. If you're working 40 hours a week, do like 35 hours of what you're supposed to do and do 5 hours to just like build projects or try things or like go rogue on social media or like build some crazy community. Or in my case, I've like programmed random things that are like tools internally that make our company 4x more productive doing some function. When you go rogue, like you'll learn a ton, you'll really understand things, and you'll actually get like, it's kind of amazing, but your bosses will love you because you will like do the thing they're not expecting to have happened. So do that as often as possible. Surprise people. That's what really gets you far in your career. So good luck. Hope all's well.